the Democrats are in a desperate search for a message. They have to use disinformation in order to find the message or in order to get the message to you. And so we have a couple of clips in this segment about what they are up to. So in the Daily Wire, what is he talking about? Peter Doocy asks why Biden thinks Republicans will segregate LGBTQ kids. Look, you can't believe how low the left is going with this. So Fox News White House correspondent Peter Doocy challenged Press Secretary Jen Psaki during Wednesday's press briefing, asking about a claim President Joe Biden had made earlier in the day. And so good old Peter Doocy, he's like the only person in the White House press corps who actually asks probing questions of the day. The rest of them are themselves zombies, media zombies. Oh, we're not going to ask any real questions. We're only asking the questions that Jen Psaki wants us to ask. So we have good old Peter Doocy asking the question and then Joe Biden responding. And it's just unbelievable how low these people are willing to go to try to find a message, which is really the purpose of this segment, to show you the Democrats are so bankrupt with ideas that they will do anything to find a message. And it's so obvious at this point that they are lying. So obvious. We have the clip. Here it is.
Well, that got struck down. Griswold was thought to be a bad decision by Bork, and my guess is the guy's on the Supreme Court now. What happens if you have a state changes the law saying that children who are LGBTQ can't be in classrooms with other children? Is that legit under the way that the decision is written? What are the next things that are going to be attacked? Because this MAGA crowd is really the most extreme political organization that's existed in American history.
So that's Joe Biden saying that, and referring to, of course, the Florida law, but laws elsewhere in the United States that are probably percolating in certain Republican legislatures, whereby you cannot teach gender identity in kindergarten. In Florida, it was pre-K to third grade that you couldn't do that. But Joe Biden, what does he do instead? He says, well, they're going to segregate in these states the LGBTQ plus children or children of LGBTQ plus parents. Now, of course, there are two things that are misinformation there. The first is that the children themselves in kindergarten are not LGBTQ plus children. They're just not. And the second thing is, which is kind of the inference, even though he didn't exactly say it that way, the inference is that, when you're in elementary school, you actually know that you're LGBTQ plus. Utter nonsense. And then the other disinformation used by Biden in his own words was that in Florida, Governor DeSantis is going to instruct people as a result of the bill passing that says that children will be segregated based on who their parents are. I mean, it's utter nonsense. It's utter nonsense. The bill is pretty simple, folks. It simply says that this kind of conversation is not appropriate with children. If you want to talk sex to your kindergartner and you're really into that, well, you know what? And as long as you're the parent, you can do that. You can do that at home. But in the classroom, doesn't belong there. Not in elementary school, it doesn't. And I think the vast majority of normal people in the United States, emphasis on normal, okay, realize that that is so. What do I mean by normal? I mean people who believe that children actually ought to have a childhood and that adult conversations should not be part of what you have with them, certainly not in elementary school, about this subject. Let them be children, okay? That's what I mean by normal. But Joe Biden, of course, he's using disinformation and he's saying, you're going to segregate them. Once again, Democrat Party, the party of segregation, is saying that the Republicans who are trying to keep children innocent, because they are innocent in childhood, trying to give them an opportunity to maintain that innocence as long as possible. And Democrats, of course, the groomers, they are. It's the grooming party. You know, that's why they like Neverland Ranch, a.k.a. Disneyland and Disney World. That's the party that wants to have all these conversations as early as possible. That's the party that wants to have the children determine what their sexuality is and whether or not they're going to change their sexuality while they're in elementary school. Idiots. Absolute idiots. So there's a follow-up press conference. Peter Doocy, of course, asked Joe Biden that question. You heard the clip. So Peter Doocy was like scratching his head. It's like, you know what? I got to get some clarification on this. So later, I think it was the same day, Jen Psaki had a press conference with the White House press corps. Peter Doocy asked her, you know, can you clarify that just a little bit? We had that clip. Here it is.
The president said today, what happens if you have states change the law saying that children who are LGBTQ can't be in classrooms with other children? What is he talking about?
Well, I think, Peter, we've seen extreme laws that target LGBTQ families, their kids across the country. And I think what he's saying is we don't know what they're capable of given what they've already done to date.
Which state is trying to segregate LGBTQ children in the classroom?
Well, I think we've seen laws that are incredibly discriminatory. That's what the president's referring to. And the fact that he doesn't know what additional steps could be taken by extreme wings of the party that would rather divide rather than work on issues that the American people actually are focused on and actually.
So the extremists are the Republicans who believe that children should maintain their innocence. And the Democrats, they are the mainstream party who wants to have conversations with their kindergartner about going to drag queen, parties and changing their sex and determining the fact that they really are in the wrong body and that there's some other sex and telling them all about the birds and the bees as early as possible. It's just ridiculous. Once again, the use of misinformation by the Democrats for the sole purpose of trying to find a message because they are so bankrupt in their ideas.